When I speak with founders, is what kind of content should I build to get more leads is sort of where they start, which I think is not exactly the right question to ask. All of these tactics are available to all of us at all times. But what you choose to be good at is what you will be good at. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day which tactic you use, as long as your audience, your segment that you're targeting, will be receptive to that particular tactic. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. It matters which one you choose to be great at.
You are listening to This is Product Marketing, brought to you by Product Marketing Hive, the product marketing community that gives back. I'm your host, Louise Liu, Product Marketing Hive, and this podcast is supported by Product Marketing Edge, a technology product marketing consulting firm. In this episode, Prashant Sridharan, head of product marketing at Supabase, shares his thoughts on developer marketing and AI. Let's dive into it right now. Hi Prashant, welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome. Thank you.
Great. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you into developer marketing.
Yeah, for sure. So I've spent my entire career in developer marketing, over 30 years. I started my career at Sun as an engineer, and then I ended up going to Microsoft as a product manager. And I really enjoyed the opportunity to be more customer centric with a lot of my work. Eventually, I took over a lot of responsibility for marketing as well, in particular product marketing, and I really enjoyed the storytelling aspect of that. And so throughout my career, I've kind of combined this engineering knowledge with storytelling to be able to take products to market, in particular developer-focused products. And I started at Microsoft on Visual Studio and then went to Amazon. I was the first director of marketing for AWS. And that was a remarkable time on a pretty foundational product for the world. Left Amazon to go to Facebook, worked on their platform at Facebook, and then went to Twitter to lead their platform efforts. Two remarkable companies, very high growth as well. After Twitter, I went back to Microsoft very briefly to help out a friend to rebuild developer relations at Microsoft. And then I decided I wanted to go back to the startup world. And I went to a startup called Timescale. And then after that, a startup called Tinybird. And currently, I'm at Supabase as the head of product marketing.
Thank you for the introduction, and congratulations on your recently published book, Picks and Shovels. A lot of what we're going to discuss today is covered in your book.
Yep, everything's in my book. It's beautiful, and it's available now. It's an Amazon bestseller in 3 different categories. And it's called Picks and Shovels, Marketing to Developers During the AI Gold Rush.
So you're currently the head of product marketing at Supabase. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role and your responsibilities?
Yeah, so at Supabase, I'm responsible for product marketing, and the responsibilities include everything from positioning and messaging, as all product marketers contend with, to things like go-to-market strategy, sales enablement. I recently helped drive a lot of our efforts around our first user conference, making sure the messaging was right, making sure the tone and consistency of the entire event was right, and generally project managing the whole thing. As I write in my book, I look at product marketing as sort of the ringleaders of the circus. You sit at the nexus of many activities inside of a company. You sit in between marketing and sales, you sit between marketing and product, and you sit between marketing and customer support and customer success. And the key to the role is to really understand the customer, to internalize the customer, and then to drive things like messaging. Messaging to me is not just a slide deck or a document that describes what the product is. It's the actual work of making sure that the sales team is carrying that message forward and that you're learning from what they're doing and what they're encountering as they speak to customers. It's about making sure that every customer touch point, from customer support and customer success, also reflects and embodies that messaging. And it's also really important that the product embodies the messaging and the product informs the messaging. So when I think about product marketing, I think about someone who is the ringleader of the circus, who sits in the middle and watches the entire program run and makes sure that everyone is on the same page and that the marketing is evolving with the product's evolution, as well as how customers themselves are evolving. And so at Supabase, I drive a lot of these efforts around this positioning and messaging and making sure that we're consistent everywhere we go.
How do you define developer marketing? And in your view, how does it differ from product marketing in general?
Yeah, so I actually describe this in the book, and I think about developer marketing as more of an umbrella term. I think developer marketing encompasses product marketing for sure. How do you talk about your product? How do you take it to market? How do you connect with the sales team so they're on the right wavelength as marketing? How do you connect with customer success and support so that you are getting feedback from customers on the ground? And how do you connect with product to make sure the product reflects the messaging and vice versa? So that's product marketing. But developer marketing also includes sort of classic brand marketing, events marketing, all the classic things around marketing in general, making sure that your collateral is correct, doing field marketing and running events around the world to engage with customers and engage with your community. So that's really sort of the kind of middle bucket of just sort of general marketing in the developer sense. And then I think there's a third bucket, which is developer relations and developer advocacy, hiring and maintaining a group of very technical people who write awesome content, who produce awesome content, speak at events, and support our customers along the way. So developer marketing is sort of this umbrella term that includes product marketing, it includes general marketing, as well as includes developer advocacy, or what people call developer relations.
So tell us a little bit more about what kind of developer audience do you focus on and what makes them unique compared to other B2B audiences?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because historically we've always looked at developers as a more discerning audience. They are more technical. They understand the product really well. They have a very low tolerance for sales nonsense or marketing verbiage. They want to get straight to the product and understand the product and actually use the product. And so developers, the proof has always been in giving them access to the product and letting them experience it for themselves. But we're seeing increasingly we have a broader consumer audience as well as general business audience that has also become very savvy over the years and has become very accustomed to hearing sales pitches and marketing verbiage and generally wants to cut through all of that noise and get to the product itself. I recently myself purchased a B2B product for Supabase, and that product I had to endure a sales-driven demo. I had to endure marketing language and marketing data sheets. I never got an opportunity to be hands-on with the product. And in the course, when we finally signed the deal and we finally got to start using the product, as I started using the product, I began to see all of its problems. And those problems became very prevalent throughout the usage of the product. And so, even us as B2B buyers, even us as consumers, we have become very savvy and we just want to get to the product. Just show me the product, let me use the product. And that has been consistent in developer marketing over the years. And so I think today what we're seeing is what this concept around developer marketing of just get customers to the product as quickly as possible is becoming the expectation in B2B marketing and consumer marketing as well. And so I think to me, and I write about this a lot, we are in a world now where everyone on the planet is a developer. You can use tools like Lovable and Bolt to become a developer. You are accustomed to getting to the product as quickly as possible. You are accustomed to using the product hands-on in a deeply technical way, and probably a much more technical way than we were used to in the past. And so today, everyone is now a developer. And so therefore, your B2B marketing and your consumer marketing needs to apply a lot of these developer concepts that we've built over the last 30, 35 years. And so all of that is distilled in my book. And I kind of talk about how you do developer marketing, how you reach developers in a very truthful and honest way. And so with that, and with the growth of B2B and consumer marketing in that direction, I think everyone now in a marketing field is a developer marketer, just as everyone in the world is now a developer.
Do you have any helpful tips on how to build trust with this developer audience? As you mentioned that they're often known for resisting being marketed to.
Well, I think, trust with developers is just being truthful. It's being honest and direct. In developer sales and in developer marketing, you often encounter a customer who's just not a good fit for your product. And so referring them to another product builds trust. They may not need your product today, but they'll remember you as someone who was truthful and direct. And they may come back to you when they do need your product and they do have a use case. So steering customers and treating the customer relationship as more an advisory relationship and being honest and truthful helps build that trust. When you try and get to a transactional sense with a customer, you bypass that trust. But when you stay in an advisory capacity where you try and understand the customer's needs, And then you say, well, you know what? This product is not really the right thing for you. You may want to go check out this other product down the street. Or you understand the customer's needs and you say, actually, we could be a really good fit for you if you tried to use our product in this way. So being truthful, being honest, listening, and acting always in an advisory capacity with customers helps build that trust. I also write in the book about crisis management and how during a crisis, an outage, for example, or a bug in your product or data loss, a bug in your product that results in data loss on the customer side, that these are opportunities to build trust and to speak honestly, to speak truthfully, to say, hey, we screwed up. We had an outage. This is what caused it. These are the steps we're going to take to make sure it never happens again. Every developer on the planet has had bugs in their product. Every developer on the planet has had a catastrophic issue happen with one of their products. So developers understand when you say, hey, we screwed up here, and this is what we're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Developers understand that. And so that developer mindset in the developer world is really important. It's about being truthful, being honest, and always behaving with integrity.
That's quite timely. Recently, AWS had a huge outage, which affected many industries. Reflecting on that, as you said, it's a great opportunity to build trust.
Yeah, for sure. And Amazon has always been good about publishing retros after these incidents. And I think, there are people in our industry who love to gloat when Amazon goes down or Google goes down or what have you. I've always found that pretty gauche because the outage monster always comes for us, and it's always lurking. And so there are a lot of things, of course, you can do with great engineering practices to mitigate that. But at some point, it will hit you. And so having humility and behaving with humility, I think, is also really important. And so, it's the worst day for all of us when something like Amazon goes down.
From your experience, what are some of the common mistakes or misconceptions you've seen companies make when marketing to developers?
Yeah, I think, there are a few things I would say are mistakes. The first one is treating all developers the same. So in the book and in the last 5 years or 6 years of my career, I've had the fortune of spending a lot of time with Postgres-based databases. And so in the book, I talk about three different Postgres companies and how each of those three are ostensibly the same Postgres database, but they all target different customers. And so when we think about developers, they're not all the same. And I think that's one major mistake that a lot of folks make is they don't segment their market properly. You can have a group of developers, but some of them could be front-end developers, some of them could be vibe coders, some of them could be back-end developers, some of them could be database developers, some of them could be kernel developers, and on and on and on. And some of them could be data engineers and so forth. And so a developer is not the same. And so speaking in your company, having a very clear understanding of what the language is when you say developer is very important. And I have seen firsthand founders make this mistake. They say we are a developer company, but then they don't go the next step and say these are the types of developers that our product will target and that our company will target. And what ends up happening is maybe they don't know and they end up oscillating between one style of developer and the next. And as a developer marketer, you're trying to build this go-to-market plan and content and so forth to target a quote unquote developer, but you have to know exactly what type of developer you're trying to reach. This is one of the things I find very refreshing being at Supabase. At Supabase, it's a Postgres database, it's a Postgres platform, backend platform, and it's applicable to a variety of different use cases. But we target a very specific type of developer with our marketing, with our go-to-market strategy. It's very refreshing to know this is our customer. These are the tactics we're going to employ to reach that customer.
In terms of tactics, what channels or content types proven most effective for reaching and engaging developers?
Yeah, this is a very common question. And when I speak with founders, this is actually kind of where they start. What kind of content should I build to get more leads is sort of where they start, which I think is not exactly the right question to ask. What I have seen is that there are obviously a number of tactics that we could employ from a marketing perspective to reach developers. And these tactics are pretty much the same for all of us. These are the panoply or the menu of tactics that we can choose from is the same for all of us. But some companies elect to be very good at certain tactics. Some companies elect, for example, to be very good at writing long form blog posts that are deeply technical. Some companies elect to be very good at writing awesome or building awesome YouTube content. Some companies elect to be very good at writing full-fledged sample applications. So all of these tactics are available to all of us at all times. But what you choose to be good at is what you will be good at. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day which tactic you use, as long as your audience, your segment that you're targeting, will be receptive to that particular tactic. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. It matters which one you choose to be great at. And what I mean by that is at Supabase, for example, we choose to be very good at YouTube and building awesome YouTube content. And we hire people who really want to record and build awesome YouTube content. And we also hire we have a video team in-house that edits and produces our content to make it look very professional. We hired designers to help our developer advocates have awesome sets, if you will, in their home offices so that their YouTube content looks really good with great lighting and great backgrounds and so forth. And we choose to be very good at this because we believe that if we're very good at this, we can then turn that into greater awareness and greater adoption of Supabase. We could just as easily say, let's be very good at writing amazing blog posts. And we could have writers and editors on the team. We could have a long stable of content that we're going to produce and build. We could easily be the company that says we're going to build full-fledged samples, and we could have real engineers in a developer advocate capacity who are building great content, building great samples with designers who are building beautiful websites for those samples and beautiful mobile apps for those samples. So as a company, the tactics you choose to be good at are the tactics you will be good at. And I think that is a very important concept that a lot of founders in particular struggle with because they look at companies they want to be like and they say, I want to copy everything that they do. I want to go to every trade show and have a booth at every trade show and sponsor things, or I want to write blog posts, or I want to record videos, when in fact they're not being true to who they are, or they're not being true to what their company's abilities are.
Do you have any helpful tips on balancing technical depth versus business outcomes when it comes to messaging?
This is a great question. So I think the first thing is, messaging is all about the audience. Messaging is all about the recipient. And so I always say, and I write this in the book, that positioning and messaging starts with segmentation. You need to understand what customer you're going to target. At Supabase, for example, I have a segmentation framework that encompasses about 14, maybe 15 different market segments inside this broad developer world. And these market segments encompass everyone from vibe coders to enterprise decision makers. And so within each segment, I then have examples of what that particular type of customer is looking for, what their current pain points are, what their challenges are, and so forth. So you have this broad positioning of Supabase. It's the open source Postgres development platform. And then within each segment, I have tailored messaging that ties back to that positioning. Why would a vibe coder care about an open source Postgres-based development platform? So I describe that in that segmentation framework. And so now, at that point, now you can, within each segment, you can then modulate, this is how technical I want to be and how non-technical I want to be. If you're talking to an individual contributor front-end developer, you are going to be technical in a different way than if you were talking to an individual contributor database engineer. Or if you were talking to an individual contributor backend developer. Each of those three may be individual contributor developers in an organization, but the level of technical depth and what you choose to emphasize is different for each segment. Similarly, if I were speaking to a vibe coder, it's a very different level of technical ability. So Supabase has a broad platform of different tools, all built on top of Postgres, database, auth, storage, et cetera. Each of them I can talk about each one deeply technically or superficially technically. And so depending on the audience, I'm able to modulate the messaging based on the particular segment. So all of positioning and messaging needs to start first with segmentation, and then you can dive into positioning and messaging. And then part of segmentation, I write about this in the book as well, is the ideal customer profile. Of all the segments you could target, which ones are your ideal profile? And that the number of ICPs you have will grow as your company grows. But the fundamental principles are the same. Start with the customer, segment the customer, build positioning and messaging for each segment, and then define from your product direction and your product roadmap which of those segments is going to be most effective for you.
You are hiring a product marketer for your team at Supabase. What qualities, skills, or attributes do you value most in your new hire? Do you prioritize a proven track record in the same industry, or do you prefer someone with a strong product marketing foundation?
That's actually a great question. So first thing is I never presuppose. So I never say this is the type of candidate that I'm looking for because that creates bias. And so what I'm looking for is a product marketer. I'm hiring product marketers at Supabase now. I'm looking for product marketers. The one thing that I insist upon at the moment is someone who is very deeply knowledgeable about AI and uses AI tools to their fullest. We can talk about that in a second. But when I look at the people, my own path started in engineering. I have a deep love for developer tools and developer products because I love to use them. I love to build with them. I spend almost every day about 2 hours just building things on top of Supabase. I have a bunch of apps that I need to figure out how to ship to the App Store. I just love building apps and I love developer products. And that started because I was an engineer. And then I grew into not just loving the products, but loving the developer customer, loving to listen to them, loving to do research with them. And that puts me in a position where, I can empathize with the customer really well. But at the same time, there are people I've met who've never been a developer, who are phenomenal at strategic aspects of product marketing, who are incredible at things like pricing and packaging, who are phenomenal at coordination and just leadership, who can take a positioning framework or a messaging kind of set of guidelines and then say, I know how to take this to the sales team and get everyone in sales bought in. And then we're all now marching on the same page. That is a skill in and of itself. And these are all skills that aren't necessarily engineering skills, but are necessary for product marketing. And it's very rare to find someone who is left to right great at the engineering part, as well as great at the leadership and communication part. Those people tend to be leaders themselves in marketing organizations. And so what you find is that you find people who are very good and like to do things that are different from one another. And so I don't presuppose what is going to be a great product marketer working for me. At the moment, the only thing I really kind of look for first and foremost is someone who is very steeped in AI.
That's interesting. You mentioned AI skills as a priority. Tell us a little bit more about it and how AI impacts your product marketing work.
Yeah, for sure. And I have multiple Claude windows going all the time, and I have written multiple slash commands in Claude to do things for me. I use Claude with our Notion MCP server, with the Notion MCP server because we use Notion at Supabase, and I have Claude do tons of deep research. Sometimes I use the UltraThink thing inside of Claude to go off and do some very, very deep research for me across multiple sites, synthesizing all that data. Sometimes I'll load in CSVs full of product usage data, anonymized product usage data, and have that fed into the equation as well. And so what I do is I have Claude doing a lot of synthesis and analysis and research for me. That gets pumped into Notion, and then I'm able to read a lot of that research and give it directions on what to do next. And then recently, as of last couple of weeks, I've been building a lot of Notion skills as well, taking the contents of my book and turning them into product marketing skills, build a positioning framework, build a case study, build a discussion guide for a customer interview, and so on. And so I've taken my book and basically shredded it and turned it into a whole bunch of Claude skills that I then am able to apply slash commands to those Claude skills. So think about a Claude skill as the recipe and the slash command is the chef who uses the recipe to go do something. And so I have this combination now of of skills and slash commands that can help me speed up my work considerably. And so, to me, I'm a very, very efficient at this point. And what I'm looking for is not to build a team of 5 or 10 product marketers, because I think that will just introduce inefficiency into everything that we're doing. What I'm looking for is a group of product marketers who can leverage Claude to help them do things across the spectrum of product marketing, whether it's running a launch, whether it's doing sales enablement, whether it's working with partners. All those things can be augmented using AI. And in this case, the AI does not replace my own thinking and my own strategic thinking. That day may come at some point. But right now, what it does is it helps me take a lot of the mechanical work that I would have necessarily had to do myself over the course of weeks and condense that into a handful of minutes. And then now I can take action on all that work. To give you an example, I'm writing a keynote presentation for one of our founders. I had Claude do a ton of research for me last Friday. Over the course of about a couple of hours, it generated a very long Notion document for me, which I was then able to read through and then create a set of next steps in terms of this is the narrative that I want to say in this keynote. What elements of the research support or refute this narrative? And then from there, I was able to start refining this into an outline for this particular keynote. And so, AI really helps you move a lot faster if you're willing to harness it.
Thank you for sharing. This is a great example of how to incorporate AI into your product marketing workflow. Given the rapid evolution of AI, how do you think it's changing developer marketing or product marketing in general?
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to know what the world is going to look like 5 years from now. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos of so-called futurists who all have differing opinions on what the world is going to look like. And I think it's part of human nature to be worried about an uncertain future. And I don't know what the world is going to look like. A year ago, I had never in my mind thought that I was going to be able to write code as fast and as prolifically as I am right now. But the tools have become so extraordinary in just a year. Claude Code is remarkable. ChatGPT Codex is remarkable. These tools are incredible in so many ways, and they've progressed so fast in a year that I just don't know what it's going to look like 5 years from now. What I do know is that I can control myself and that I can control how much I disrupt myself. And I believe pretty strongly that if you don't disrupt yourself regularly, someone will come around and disrupt you. This applies to companies, this applies to people, it applies to careers. I have never taken it for granted that getting to work is a privilege. And for me, I'm constantly saying, someone is going to come around and be much faster and better at this than me. And so I better keep learning and keep moving very fast in order to keep up. And I think, in the last year, I've been able to use all these AI tools, like I said, to build skills, to build slash commands and so forth that significantly increase the speed at which I can work. And I will continue to do that as Claude comes out, as Anthropic comes out with new features for Claude, as OpenAI comes out with new features for ChatGPT. I will be there at the vanguard learning how to use them and learning how to use them the best for my job as well as for all the personal things that I do. And so those things I think are just hyper critical to be able to disrupt yourself. And I think the other thing is that this is exhausting. I think careers and jobs now are exhausting. It's like being on a treadmill 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have got to have boundaries for yourself. This is something I struggle with, but you've got to have boundaries for yourself. I have a remarkable wife and a wonderful kid that are the most important things to me, and it's very important to keep that top of mind. So this AI-driven world is full of uncertainty. None of us knows what's going to look like in 5 years. We're all on this constant treadmill where we're constantly working and constantly learning, and it's never stopping. It's probably never going to stop for the rest of our careers. And we must always keep in mind what is actually truly important and make sure that that takes priority.
Before we go, what advice would you give to product marketers who are new to developer-focused products or audiences?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, what I was saying earlier is, and I wrote a blog post on this. I firmly believe that everybody in the world now is a developer. I started my career 35 years ago, and it was sort of the only people that could be developers were sort of the high priest of computer science. And over time, that became more and more democratized. And you began to see that more and more people can become a developer. And in the last year, thanks to Lovable and Bolt and Figma and Vercel and others, everyone on the planet now can be a developer. There are tools that I have written for myself in just the last 2 weeks, productivity tools, menu bar apps for macOS that I've written solely for myself to help improve my workflow. And that's because I can be a developer today to build tools that I use every day. And everybody on the planet now is capable of being a developer and improving their own productivity, including improving their own joy at home, improving their lives. And I believe very strongly, because I've been doing it for 35 years, that developers are pretty awesome people. And when we all adopt a builder's mindset and a developer's mindset, that's pretty extraordinary. It means that we can all, in our own hands, with our own mind, we can manifest things that didn't exist a few minutes ago, a few hours ago. That's pretty amazing. So I love that everyone in the world can be a developer now. That has profound effects for business, because in business, if all of your customers are developers, they are going to expect different things out of the products they use. Maybe this doesn't apply to McDonald's, but it certainly applies to consumer electronics. It certainly applies to streaming services. It applies to any product that any product leader is building. That if you are not thinking about your customer and the ways they want to customize and personalize your product, you are probably going to lose out on deals. And so thinking with the developer's mindset, now that everyone's a developer, I think is really, really important. And I also think it's important that you buy my book so that you can learn about how to adopt the developer's mindset.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning into This is Product Marketing, brought to you by Product Marketing Hive, a product marketing community that gives back. Check out our website, productmarketinghive.com, to join our community, meet fellow product marketers, and access free resources. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe and give a 5-star rating on the platform of your choice. See you next time.